There are a lot of things that make Harry Potter a great hero. There's his athletic ability, his humility.
Hey, she's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one.
And his swag, to name just a few. But in this video, I want to talk about the thing that I think makes him a truly archetypal hero: his relationship with death.
Death became a central, if not the central theme of the 7 books.
You mean death in terms of loss, not just the killing of people, but...
Absolutely, the theme of how we react to death, how much we fear it, of course, which is a key part of the books, because Voldemort is someone who will do anything not to die. He's terrified of death, and in many ways, all of my characters are defined by their attitude to death and the possibility of death.
Harry's story closely mirrors myths and religions. For example, Harry dies and comes back to life to save humanity. In fact, the parallels between Harry Potter and Christianity run pretty deep. The place Harry goes to after he dies is called King's Cross.
Where would you say that we are?
Well, it looks like King's Cross Station. Only cleaner.
When Narcissa Malfoy checks to see whether Harry is really dead, the book tells us that her nails pierced him. Then, when Harry confronts Voldemort after returning from the forest, he asks Voldemort to show remorse, a classic Christian theme. J.K. Rowling has also said that the Deathly Hallows novel expresses her own struggling with religious belief. We see this in Harry's complicated feelings toward Dumbledore. His faith in Dumbledore's plan sometimes shakes. He questions why his former headmaster has set him an impossible task. Harry also feels anger toward Dumbledore when he first realizes that he must die in order to defeat Voldemort. This mirrors Jesus' experiences of doubt in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before his crucifixion. However, Harry overcomes these doubts and willingly goes to face death anyway. In this way, he is the complete opposite of Voldemort, who will do anything to stay alive. Here, Harry is living up to Dumbledore's advice.
Soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy.
Here again, Harry Potter is like a religious story, in that evil is viewed not as some great outside force, but rather as the result of choices made by individuals.
The world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on.
This idea is expressed first in Harry's decision to join Gryffindor instead of Slytherin, and finally by his choice to overcome the evil part of Voldemort's soul which lives within him.
And to the Harry Potter thing, Harry Potter has a piece of Voldemort in him.
Yes, well, that's the original sin doctrine recreated.
Harry achieves this by sacrificing himself in the forest to save his friends, much like his mother sacrificed herself for him. But then why is Harry able to return to the world of the living after making his sacrifice? There doesn't seem to be a clear answer, and we're not even told for sure whether Harry actually dies. After all, it's said repeatedly throughout the series that no magic can really bring back the dead. But there are a few factors at play which might explain it. Firstly, Dumbledore tells Harry that Voldemort doubled the bond between you when he returned to human form. The first bond was created when Voldemort tried to kill Harry as a baby, but accidentally turned him into a Horcrux. The second bond was created when Voldemort used Harry's blood to create his new body. The protective magic that Lily gave to Harry exists in his blood. So now that Voldemort has some of Harry's blood in his body, it means that so long as Voldemort lives, Harry can't die. Another reason could be that at the time when Harry sacrificed himself, he was the possessor of all 3 Deathly Hallows, thus making him the Master of Death. However, prophecies in Harry Potter are generally not that straightforward. Maybe it doesn't mean that the person who has all 3 Hallows will be immortal and invincible. Rather, it might mean that the person who is the Master of Death, as in someone who accepts the reality of death, is the one who is worthy of handling the power that comes with having all 3 Hallows at once. Thirdly, there is the fact that Voldemort's killing curse destroys the piece of Voldemort's own soul within Harry. It's for all these reasons together, I think, that Harry is able to return to the living world. The message seems to be, if you make the proper sacrifices out of love and accept the tragedy of death, then not only will you save the world, but you might not have to die at all. This idea is expressed in the Bible in Corinthians and the Gospel of Matthew, which are actually quoted in the Deathly Hallows. It shows up in lots of myths and fairy tales, like Cinderella. Basically, the idea is that good people who suffer will be rescued. Dumbledore expresses this idea directly. Earlier in the series, he tells Harry,
"You will find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it."
But when Harry speaks to him again in the Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore says that this isn't quite right.
But I would in this case amend my original statement to this. Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who deserve it.
However, Harry's return to life isn't actually the final rebirth in the series. That comes in the epilogue, which is set 19 years later. In this chapter, we meet Harry's children, named James, Lily, and Albus Severus. In a way, they represent the resurrection of Dumbledore, Snape, and Harry's parents, the major characters who died to save him. They embody new life. Not an ending, but the start of a new set of stories. As Luna says to the Ravenclaw statue earlier in the book, a circle has no beginning. Harry's children, with their names honoring the loved ones and allies Harry has lost, ensure that their memory will live on. This brings us right back to the quote on the very first page of the Deathly Hallows. "Death is but crossing the world, as friends do the seas. They live in one another still."